So, welcome everybody. My name is Adam Oster. I'm the Community Engagement Librarian for the Library of Michigan. Um, and with us also is my colleague, Matt Pacer. Matt, why don't you tell us what it is that you do at the library and
Okay,
all that fun stuff?
all that jazz. Yeah, my name's Matthew, or Matt, either one. I'm one of the reference librarians, and my focus is on the Michigan, helping to coordinate the Michigan collection and our rare book room. I'm one of five people that work with our digitization program. I sit on the reference desk, like Adam and other librarians, fielding questions, phone, in person, email, give presentations like this. And I'm the donation coordinator and other duties as assigned.
Which is kind of like what a lot of us at the Library of Michigan
Yeah.
get. So just sort of a few ground rules of what we're going to be doing this evening. So we will be going for roughly about 45 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes presentation-wise, covering our topic tonight, Fold3, and then afterwards we will have time for Q&A that can either be on the topic itself, or if you also want to get into talk about other things related to the Library of Michigan itself. We ask that you keep yourself muted unless you want to unmute yourself in order to ask questions. Otherwise, I will be monitoring the chat as well for questions. So, and I think beyond that, just a reminder that that this is being recorded, and we will make the video recording. It's also being simulcast on our Facebook page, so the video itself of it on Facebook should be available within a couple hours at the most after it's done processing and be available on there. As far as being available on YouTube, we have to get it captioned, so that will be up within the next week or so after it's all done this evening. As far as any other things beyond that, if you do have questions afterwards, be sure to either give us a call at 517-335-1477 or email us at librarian@michigan.gov. We do have several more in-person and virtual presentations coming up throughout the rest of the year, and we're starting to work on our schedule for 2023. So if you have any suggestions of what you would like us to talk about, I would start either thinking about it or shoot us an email to say like, hey, I enjoyed this, please do it again. Or if you have any others that you think would be good topics, please feel free to let us know. So, and I think beyond that, Matt, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you, and let's get the show on the road.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Adam. Hello, everyone. Thanks for attending. I would say going back to the questions, chat probably works the best for questions if you have them. For a little bit of the agenda, I'm going to go through some screen shares and talk a little bit about the Library of Michigan and our collections, and then go through and with some screenshots, talk a little bit about Fold3 as a resource to help you give a basic overview. And then once that's done, go into a live demonstration, which is probably will make more sense once you hear me say a few things and point out a few things. But then once I go into the demonstration, it'll be much better. I also will be closing down my video feed just to help me, since I'm at home in the basement. I've got 2 kids, and bandwidth is at a premium. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and stop my video and continue to talk. So Fold3, our family history with Fold3. So first, what is the Library of Michigan? Well, we're that institution that's created to collect, preserve, and provide access to the story of the state and to help support libraries in their role as essential community anchors. And as you can see on the slide in front of you, we've been around for a long time, since 1828, as the territorial library in the Michigan Territory. And at that time, we served state government. As the Library of Michigan, we serve state government and the people of Michigan, much as the Library of Congress works at a federal level. So as a quick kind of timeline, as you can see at the bottom of your screen, 1828, we're a territorial library. Then yay for statehood, 1837, so we became the Michigan State Library. And then 1847, we packed up our bags, about 130 or so items, and I guess wagon or so, or a couple wagons, and we moved from Detroit to Lansing without the assistance of 94 or 96, so that could have been a very interesting commute. Then in 1983, we became the Library of Michigan instead of the Michigan State Library. It kind of helps smooth over that confusion with Michigan State University Library, which is just down the road from us. And then finally, in 1988, the Michigan Library and Historical Center opens. And if you look on your screen at the bottom right-hand corner, that is the picture of the building that we currently reside in. Now, when you're looking at that picture, on the right-hand side of the building is the State Museum and also the State Archives. On the left-hand side of that image with the windows, that's the State Library. And we occupy the second floor, the third floor, the fourth floor, and the fifth floor. The fifth floor containing our statewide service staff members. Now move to the next slide. This here is just an image of our atrium in the center of the library wing. And I think it's a nice picture at night because it shows you a really good look, not only of the atrium, but it's a wonderful building to do research in. This image was taken in the fall of 2019 during the Fall Family History event sponsored by the Michigan Genealogical Council, where the library and the archives opens up after hours for some extra research for a couple hours as part of the lecture series that takes place the next day. I'm going to move on to the next slide. Because in our physical building, we have several different collections, and really we have 4 primary collections, and those are the ones that you see on the screen in front of you. We have the Michigan Documents Collection, which comprises things like annual reports from different departments and commissions, compiled laws, joint documents, but other things such as the Michigan History Magazine that was published as a state document up until 2009, and now it's being published by the Michigan Historical Society, HSM, Historical Society of Michigan, sorry, and the Michigan Historical and Pioneer Collections. So those are 2 examples of really good family history resources that are not just the typical annual reports or joint documents or law items. We also have the Michigan Collection, which you will find Michigan newspapers, gazetteers, plat maps, county histories, place histories, cemetery transcriptions, the Tigers, Red Wings, Pistons, Lions, Sparky Anderson, railroad, mining, lumbering, high school yearbooks, you name it. Again, it focuses on Michigan. So for example, with the newspapers, we have the largest microfilm collection of Michigan newspapers, over 70,000 reels of microfilm Michigan newspapers. We have a law library, the state law library, on the 3rd floor of our side of the building. Again, its focus is primarily Michigan. And then we also have the rare book room. It's a Martha W. Griffiths, Michigan Rare Book Room, located on the 4th floor. And that collection is basically a 3rd Michigan, a 3rd general, and a 3rd law. And primarily through the Library of Michigan Foundation, we are only purchasing items that are Michigan content. And then we have 2 other collections. There is a federal documents collection. We're a selective participant in the federal depository system. So we get about 30%, 33% of the federal documents that are produced. And then we have a main collection, or some people call it a general collection. So think of it as like a public library collection, but the focus there is to help state workers do their job. So if you want to think about it, our patron base are state workers, public libraries, and then researchers like you. So let's get to the heart of what we want to talk about today. Fold3, and and its kind of relation to family history. So how do I get to Fold3? Well, probably the easiest way at the bottom of that screen cap that you see is if you were to go to www.michigan.gov/family-history, you can, using that URL, you can then scroll down about halfway to the section called Family History and Newspapers, and you will find alphabetical list, and you should see Fold3, and then you can click on it. Now, just as a reminder, if you are a Michigan resident, you can get a Library of Michigan library card, and that library card will provide access to this database, Fold3. And I'll show you how to get to that when we get to the demonstration for those who are Michigan residents, how to get a library card, where that form is, and so forth. But I do want to take a brief moment or two just to mention to our attendees today that the Library of Michigan shares a catalog with Michigan State University. And at the end of this month, we will be migrating with Michigan State University to a new catalog. So there was going to be a little bit of downtime towards the end of the month and accessing online resources like Fold3. We hope it's just a few days, but I just want to let people know, for those who have library cards or who then subscribe to get a library card if you're a Michigan resident, that towards the end of the month, there will be this migration. And Adam, as part of our webmaster, he will be updating the website slowly throughout the month with information about that. So check back routinely for updates. But when you click on Fold3 in that database listing, the page you're going to get should look a little bit like this. And in the center of the page, you're going to get a general search box, like you might think of like on Google or on Yahoo and so forth. But there are other different components to this page that are further down that you can't see right now that I will get to during the live demonstration. But on top, just to point to a few things, you can get to things like search and browse. We'll talk more about those during the demonstration because there is a difference. There is memorials, and there's the help button. I'll click on that because there are some useful things there. On the right-hand side, there's a member's login. I do want to point out that if you're to go to Fold3, not through our website or another library's website, but go, on your computer at home and go to fold3.com, there should be a way to sign up for a individual account, a free individual account that gives you a certain level of access. It's not much, but it gives you a little bit of things. The most important part about that is on that upper red menu is the word memorials. That's a fairly new feature that they've brought out from the beta testing, where individuals like Find a Grave that you can add things to records. So I'll point those out when we get to the demonstration. I just wanted to mention that right now. But then there's other ways to explore Fold3 on this main page besides going into search or browse. So I'm going to go to the next page. Because what is Fold3? Well, family history database with, as it says right there, definitely it's well over 575 million records now. But it has its start back in 1999 as the iArchives, and then later in 2007 as footnote.com. So some of you may have used this before in its earlier iteration as footnote.com. Ancestry came in around 2011 and purchased footnote.com and then rebranded it as Fold3. Now, the reason they rebranded it as Fold3, for those of you who don't know about the flag folding component, the third fold of the flag is supposed to represent, honoring and remembering those who served in the military. So that's where that Fold3 comes from. And it contains information from records, I should say, from the United States and other nations, but primarily from North America. And as you might remember from my previous screen, England, Australia, Ireland, Scotland, Europe, and then other nations records as they can obtain license licensing rights to display that content. And there is a slight difference between, well, I shouldn't say slight, there is actually a very large difference between Ancestry and Fold3. As I said, as I say there, it's military records. You might stumble on things in Ancestry, military records, such as the World War I draft cards. You'll also see them on Fold3. So as you're thinking about your family history research and what you're looking for and answering whatever question or questions, if you're looking for more of a military record, a service record, and such, you're going to want to definitely look at Fold3 in addition to looking at Ancestry. There is a slight overlap, but most of those military records are placed on Fold3. So I'm going to go to the next slide. I want to try to. There we go. I'm going to stop here for just a few minutes so you can write this down if you want to, and I'll show you where this is located at during our demonstration. Fold3 has a lot of help at www.fold3.com/help, and the help screens are well done, and some of them have a few video tutorials on how to use certain aspects of Fold3. So I encourage you to use those if you get stuck, or you can email or call us and we can do our best to help you. So I'll just wait a few more seconds right here for those who might be writing that down. And now I'm going to move on. So as I mentioned, we have that first search bar on that home page. So at the top of the screen that you see in front of you, if you click on home, you'll go to that first home page that has that search box. And when you search in there, you're searching all the publications. And that's what Fold3 calls their records. They call them publications. But if you click on the search button at the top, you're going to get a window that looks a lot like this. And this is a good sample screen. And I want to point out a few things that will benefit the researcher. I think it's really important that if you are able to, use that filter drop-down menu to begin to target certain things like the date or place, birth date, marriage, and so forth. As you see those arrows, those right-hand arrows, those fly-out menus, call-out menus, will provide you even more search options to build upon. Basically they are filters. And this is the way that Fold3 presents to you its advanced search, is it wants you to use the filter to slowly narrow down your topic. And it will build, so on that search screen, right next to the word filter, as you build more, there will be filters placed on it. And that will make more sense once we get into the demonstration. On the left-hand side, you can filter down to certain conflicts or war or other service, as you see on the left-hand side. There are more options that we can't see on this screenshot. So in this example that I sort of did here, I picked death. So to the right hand of the word filter, I use death. And then I wanted place as Michigan. And then it gave me a results list. And we see here 390,000 results. And it's the standard results list. And as you can sort of see, you have a little image in the center part of the screen with, this is giving us names here, Colin, Travers, that you can click on the names and get to those actual records, or you can click on that image to get to that record itself. And on the right-hand side, you're given a little bit of more information. So as we can see to the right for Colin, we have a burial place, we have a date range, and we have a death date. So based on year, it's going to be probably Korean War. And we have a burial place, LP in Michigan, and so forth, at least to give you a little bit of an insight of what this information this record is going to contain, so you don't have to click on it and open it up. just to as kind of pointing something out, right above those, the burial place and date range and so forth, you'll see a couple things. It says sort relevance, anytime, but then there's a slider button by OCR. So you can toggle on and toggle off records that have already been OCR'd. I have not found any in my searching, and it's very, very limited because my family has had very limited service time, that has not really benefited me to turn off the records that are OCR'd in order to turn them on. But I would definitely encourage, yes.
You might want to explain for anybody who doesn't know what
Oh,
OCR means, what that stands for, and what that does with a record.
sounds good. Thank you, Adam, for reminding me. So for those of you who don't know, OCR is optical character recognition, and the goal is to help make searches easier. So if you type names like Colin or Travers, or Bartlett, that they will come up in the search. And the difficulty with that is sometimes the machine algorithms doing the reading don't capture handwritten information very well. So a really good example that I found in a record, and I don't know if I can recreate it here, when I searched for Pacer, it gave me, which is my last name, it gave me a record back where it's the same first name, John, but I think the spelling of the person on the record was like Paxler. So it's not a very perfect system because of that handwritten information. So some people might want to turn that OCR feature off so that they are not seeing those records that the database is trying to say, I'm guessing that Paxler is close enough to Pacer, which it's completely not. So that's what the OCR means. I'm going to go ahead and move to the next slide. Thanks, Adam, for reminding me about that. Besides besides the search, besides the search option, you can also browse the collections, or basically it's browsing those publications. And then you can sort of, you can browse down to a war, and then within a war, a certain publication. So it can help give you focus and refining locations and time period. I'll show you where this little tip at the end here, I say periodically check when a collection has been updated. There are a few, at least one good way to see when those records are updated, so that oh, maybe I should run a search and check this record collection. So if I were to click on that browse button, which is at the top on the screen, right next to search, the screen will sort of look like this in front of you. On the left-hand side, you'll get that conflict and war listing again that we saw before. And then in the center, you're going to get just all the publications or those records, just alphabetical list. Now, if you see that I next to a publication, or that record group, if you want to call it that, you can click on it and you can get information about the record group, such as when it has, if it's been updated or not. So that's probably the best way to learn if a publication has been updated. Now, when you were to click on an example like Airmen Died in the Great War or Admiralty Records, that white space area on the right-hand side of the screen will populate with either records contained within that publication, or if there are different sections within the Airmen Died in the Great War or Admiralty Records Key West, so that you're further refining what you are looking at. And I find using this browse to be really good, to slowly go through and refining my search, because I like to cast a very broad search, a name, a place, and so on and so forth, and then slowly narrow it down so I can see the information that is listed in that brief summary on the right-hand side of the record. So I'll go ahead and move on to the next slide. Because if I were to click on the airmen died in the Great War, okay, it's going to give me the different theaters: Adriatic, Aegean, Australia, Bulgaria. And if I were to click on Canada, for example, it's why it's in blue, then it's going to give me Royal Flying Corps and the Royal Air Force. So within there, if I click on there, this window is going to, the windows that we see on the screen are going to shrink a little bit and move to the left of the screen, and you're going to get another panel in which you can click on individual records. So this screen, as we see it here in Browse, could get this large with 4 or 5 panels, or maybe just 1 or 2, depending what information or like what subfields are within something like airmen died in the Great War, because they break it down to theaters and then to the service, the Royal Air Force or the Flying Corps. So it's something to keep in mind. But you're also given in this browse feature a way to search within the collection. And that's where that search within Canada search box is. So it's using that last clicked on item, and that's what it's going to search within. So it's going to search within Canada. Had I just stopped at airmen died in the Great War, that search box is just going to reflect that overall publication, airmen died in the Great War, and search just within that.
Hey,
So
Matt, we just had a question pop in the chat, and I'll go ahead and read it. Since Michigan was originally part of New France, would military records for records prior to 1760 French rule and 1760 to 1797 British rule be found in the France location / Canada location, etc.? I have many relatives that were military in Fort Pontchartrain and up to statehood, and I'm not sure where to filter.
You're gonna want to filter in all those places that you mentioned. You want to filter to France. You're gonna want to filter to Canada, because to my knowledge, in my use of Fold3 so far, there's no great way to know where this information is going to be located at. A great example, I think, would be, if you're looking at any state, say, Michigan, and you're trying to find a particularly family or family person, is to know that, as you just said, okay, this is territorial time. In general, the ruling body was, say, France or England. First focus or filter to that. So as you just said, France or England, or if you're looking, say, at a county, if it's, if I'm looking at, say, the UP area, prior to 1870, I think the county might be Michilimackinac. Maybe, don't quote me on that, can't remember what that county was, but it would cover that whole area. So definitely you're going to want to filter to all those aspects. But then to also think about what you're trying to answer or to find about that person or that war or that conflict or that event. I think a good example would be if we're thinking of, say, our Michigan Historical and Pioneer collections. Within that huge set of volumes, there's one volume or two that's focused on the Dominican archives in Canada, because there were a lot of information held at the Dominican archives that related to the Michigan area, the Michigan territory. So if we're thinking about the different conflicts, say the 7 Years' War, well, the French and Indian Wars as we know it, but the 7 Years' War, and you're looking or wanting to focus in areas, let's say, around Detroit, you're going to want to also look at English resources, because England didn't abandon Fort Detroit for several years after the war ended. they took their time as they reestablished fur trade routes in other areas. So you're going to want to think of those type of things of who was also involved in that conflict or in that area at that time. So I hope that answers at least somewhat your question. So I'm going to go ahead and move to the next slide. What we see here is on that home page, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, well, almost all the way to the bottom, you have this browse military records by war. So you don't have to just go to that browse button at the top and click. You can just scroll down and then click on a war or conflict, and then it will filter down to just those records. But what's most important, I shouldn't say just those records that will cover that war or conflict, because some of the record groups, span many, many decades, and they might cover one or two wars or, one or two conflicts. But what's also useful about this section, when you click on, say, World War I, Spanish-American War, you will also see, and I'll point this out at the demonstration, a little description, a little history of that war or conflict. And that provides a really good background information. So I'm going to go ahead and forward to the next screen, because we're almost there to the point of I want to do the actual demonstration. So some of these things will make more sense then. There are different tools. So when you're in a record, towards the top right-hand side of the record, you will see this little wrench symbol and hammer that I've placed in the slide on the right-hand side that you can see. And that's going to give you a couple different options, such as print and download this item. I don't know, because I've never tried using the share to Facebook or share to Twitter, since it's a Library of Michigan account, that may not function. But there's also a function of add to memorial. And that's where I wanted to re-mention that you would need to get your own individual free account, which provides a little bit of searchability. I don't know to the extent, not much, but it gives you the option to add to memorials. And then so I put that little image at the bottom, view memorial. You have to sign in. The real issue is you can't be within our Library of Michigan subscription, because you're within us, and it wants you to be outside under your own free one to be able to add to those memorials. I'm going to move on to the next slide, because now I'm going to go on and I'm going to share my screen and point out a few things on our website and actually get to the demonstration so you can see a few things in action. I can point out a few things. So bear with me as I do a new share here. And here we go. So on the screen, Adam, do we see our website, Library of Michigan? Excellent. Yep. So a few things I want to point out here. So I did mention that URL to get to Fold3.com database. But when you're at the Library of Michigan website, and you can see the address up above in the address bar, michigan.gov/Library of Michigan. The next thing to do is on that for the public. So we click on that link. It's going to give you this little menu here on the left-hand side. And there's our wonderful Get a Library Card. I just want to click on it to show those who are Michigan residents and who don't have a card what this looks like. This page, we just get to it and we scroll down. There's the actual direct URL, michigan.gov/library card. Some information about the library card and what this digital card provides access to. As we scroll down, a little bit more notes. We scroll down a little bit more to the actual fields that you would fill out: email, last name, city, state, zip, phone number, so on and so forth. Is it a new application and such? And then the submit button. It takes maybe a couple days or so for us to process, because it goes to a big holding email address, and several of us librarians get them each day and we work through them. So I'm going to go back. And I'm going to click on that for the public once again, because I want to go down to the online resources for library card holders. Because if you have that library card, you can get to several different databases. I'm going to scroll down because remember it's that newspaper's family history. And there it is, the section, it's alphabetical, scroll down, and there we go, Fold3 by Ancestry. It is an Ancestry company. I'm going to go ahead and click on it. Oh, well, that's different. It's never asked for this from me before.
Are you on your VPN or not?
It must have kicked me off. It's a different, okay, hold on.
You don't have your card number memorized?
No, I don't. Actually, I do not have my card number memorized, and I don't have it with me, unfortunately. It's in my wallet. Adam, are you able to share your screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you want to stop sharing yours and I can share mine?
Yes, I will do that.
Okay.
Sorry about this. We'll have. It's been so long since I actually presented at home. That's something that completely went like, oh.
And share. I go to here.
And while he's doing that, I'll answer the question in the chat. How do you know if you need to get an updated card? You can always just email us at librarian@michigan.gov, and we will check to see if you have a card, Lori, and if you need it to be updated. It's very simple. It's simple as that. And then we will update it if it needs updating, and we will ask you if you need any, if we need any new information to update it, and we'll go ahead. So thank you, Adam, for being in the driver's seat now. I apologize to everyone. So the first thing I want to have Adam do is if he can go ahead and if he can click on the help menu at the top. And to answer Evelyn, yes, you do have to be a Michigan resident to get a library card, get our Library of Michigan library card. So I do apologize to those who might not be from Michigan, but that is one of our restrictions that we do have based on licensing and so forth with the different databases. So
now,
in the
one thing we should add, though, as a caveat to that, is that if you are from out of state, you are more than welcome to email us or call us if you have questions. And I mean, we can do some limited assistance in that way. So we don't want to say that we're like excluding everybody from out of state.
That's
it's
true.
just
very
that
true,
like,
Adam.
There are some tiers of what is accessible for Michigan residents and what is accessible for anybody out of state. So,
and for those who are out of state, definitely contact your first local public library to see if they subscribe to it. And then the next step up, your state library to see if they subscribe to it. Because you have very good chances that one of them will subscribe to it. So on the screen in front, we see Fold3 Training Center. I just want Adam to go ahead and click on Browse. Just to give you a sample of what you're going to get. You're going to get, if you scroll down, see some of them will have a video tutorial and then a description of what that function or that aspect of Fold3 gives you. And then yes, you do have that menu on the left-hand side so you can navigate to different aspects, or whether it's your gallery or profiles and so forth. We're not going to go ahead and get too much into detail. So I am going to ask Adam to go back to the help screen. Yeah, thank you. That just so that you know that there are a lot of training materials here. So if Adam can scroll down a little bit more, the thing that I want to point out here that is very useful, and hopefully it won't open up in a new browser, but if Adam could click on the word blog under connect. Now, this is a wonderful place to check periodically. Right now, it just has an article on Memorial Day tips for documenting veterans' graves from Find a Grave. But if Adam scrolls down past this one, It's a fairly lengthy article, as you can see. You're going to also see in this blog descriptions of new parts of the database, like this talks about tagging and so forth. So there are different articles that they will feature, and they might include updates to different publications, or maybe different searching tips and tricks. If Adam could stop right here, because this is the one thing that I really wanted to let people know. They are able to, and it says here, U.S. morning reports from 1912 to 1946. And this can be a very big treasure trove of information that will give you background history of this is what my ancestor was experiencing in this particular conflict or war. So as I'm just going to read a little bit here. It says these changes include transfers, disciplinary actions, battle wounds, leaves, those who were sick in quarters. The morning reports, it says 2.33 million. These were introduced, as it says, in 1912 to track individual personnel and benefits. And prior to Fold3 getting access to be able to digitize and put these up, you had to get an appointment at the National Personnel Records Center in St. Louis, Missouri to access this. So it will give you an enormous amount of background and context to your ancestor, if you're looking at a particular ancestor for a particular conflict or war. So if you can stumble on a morning report in your research, definitely look at that record, because there might be some valuable information there. So if Adam can go ahead and scroll back up, and let's go ahead.
Or do you want me to go back to the other Fold3?
Yeah, other Fold3. Yep.
Page. Okay.
Yep, and go to search, please. And we're just going to type in John Pacer. He's my grandfather. I always use him as an easy one, because I just want to point out a few things here. So just a general, results list as we can see. And if you can see a few things like Social Security death index, and if Adam scrolls down a little bit further, and a little bit further, and stops. Because I wanted to stop here just to point out, we see two John Pacer, well, they're all John Pacer, but the two center records, Pacer John, U.S. Federal Census 1930, and it's again, U.S. Federal Census 1930. I just wanted to point this out. You will see census records in Fold3. So you don't have to, in a sense, bounce back and forth between Ancestry and Fold3. So there are certain things like the census you're going to see in Fold3. I want you to go ahead and click on any one of those John Pacers. It doesn't matter.
And it looks like there's another question.
Yeah.
Does Fold3 include merchant mariners killed by enemy action during World War II?
I have not seen any information about the services like Merchant Marine or Coast Guard. I would think that they would include the Coast Guard, particularly in the latter part, but I have not seen any reference to the Merchant Marine. What I would ask, Kathleen, is for you to email us at librarian@michigan.gov and ask us that question, so that I can spend more time looking to see if it contains those records. Thanks, Adam.
Yep.
And really, what I wanted to point out here is well, actually, there's a few things. In the upper right-hand corner is that wrench, and yep, there's that. That download, print, add memorial, and share. That's where those items are. But then other things that you are probably familiar with through like Ancestry and so forth is, at the bottom of the image, you can go to the next record and go to the next record using those arrow keys, or at the bottom and so forth. So that navigation that you're used to is still there, as well as those zoom controls, positive and minus, up there. And then the other ones, I think it's contrast, brightness and contrast, and then I think it's the rotation. Is that little curved arrow below? Yeah, so you can manipulate the image a little more to help with viewability. And then on the left-hand side of the screen is that transcript, for lack of a better word, full name, family number, estimated birth age, and so forth. And each record usually does have an add a correction. You can send them information if there is a error that you find. So I want Adam to click on the back button to go back. Because now I want him to click on browse at the top of the, thank you. And then let's just go ahead, just let that they can see the progression. Let's go ahead and, just pick one. It really does not matter. And then pick another one, correspondence, financial papers. I've never seen blank. Okay, that's a good one. And then click on another one because I want to show how these flyout records move through. And then it gets you to the image. And then if you want to get into the record itself, you can see it's not really a lot of information here because you have to click on that image itself to get to. And this is where those arrows at the bottom to cycle through that publication become very important. So some people might not like this browse feature because those window panes get so small and you cannot contain a lot of information. And this is their way of making it like a book or trying to make it like a book as close as they can. And I just want thanks Adam for demonstrating that because that's something I wanted to.
It's the digital microfilm machine only within your browser is kind of a good way to look at it.
Yeah, that is a great way to think about that. Just go ahead and click on another page or two. Yeah, I have no idea. It's some kind of financial paper, so it doesn't look like there's a lot of information in this type of ledger book.
Well, and since this is the
American
colonial,
yeah.
So, and if you're looking at the time period, don't be surprised if the text is either written in a way that's either very good or very poor.
Yes.
This is where when you get into that OCR, the optical character recognition, that because the style in which we write and we interpret might not be readable by a modern mechanism for trying to scan and understand what that text is for a database.
Yeah, that is a great way to put it, Adam. Great way to put it. So let's go ahead and click on the back button. Because I see that we're down to 7:18 and I want to be able to field questions for people or some searches. But the last thing I want to just have you go ahead and click on is I want you to click on memorials towards the top. And you can pick on any one you want or this is a new feature. So let's go ahead and see if you can click on William Halsey, just to give you an idea. Yeah.
Okay.
If it allows you to, if it opens up. What's nice about these memorials is it gives you this timeline of what they're doing. Age 14, branch Navy, so on and so forth, and it gives you the source documents. Corporate officers, so you can get to that document. So this is where, when I mentioned if you have that individual account that's free, you can add things to different memorials. So if you find, a family, a relative, and you can contribute to a memorial. This feature probably went live not that long ago. I'd say within the last couple years. So there's not a lot of memorials out there, but it is a growing resource, and it's something to check and search in case someone else might have added to a memorial that you may need to look at for your research. Let's go ahead and click on the back button. towards it, I think, unless Adam, I think Adam froze. Well, hold on, everyone. I think Adam froze. Well, we're having all sorts of luck here. It's good technology day. So I do apologize for this. Are you? Well, he gets, well, Adam comes back online. I'm going to share my screen. And yeah, right there, he just disappeared. And I'm going to go back because I want to put our database screen back up here because I want to go to the next slide because it has our contact information. So it has our email address, librarian@michigan.gov, that phone number that Adam mentioned, and our social media, that areas that we post things about our collection and about openings and so on and so forth. But now since we're at this point, so as people can write that information down, are there any questions? You can go ahead and unmute yourself, or you can type them in chat. We've got one from Linda saying, are financial records just for military? And primarily, yes, because Fold3 focuses primarily on the military records themselves. So any records, financial records buried within a particular publication, like we saw that Colonial one, those financial records are just going to be for that conflict or that war and whatever aspect the financial records are going to cover. Maybe it's the bounty land warrants or the pension files. So it's going to be very, very focused financial information. Who died on a ship? No one knows which one. Is there a way to research who died on ships? Well, for that question, Shannon, trying to answer that rumor of, the family did, an uncle died on a ship, and no one knows which one. Is there a way to research? Using Fold3, what I would first try to do is search by that uncle's name, if you have it, and to see if you can find like service records, and see if you can find. It's too common. You don't have a birth date. Okay. With that information, if the name is common, and if you don't have a birth date, but you have a conflict or war, you have a reasonable time frame. So what I would suggest in searching Fold3 is doing a name search and then using those filters on the left to focus down first, if you can, based on war or conflict, World War I, World War II, so forth. From there, are you able then to narrow down and it might be a lot of information that you're sifting through in that brief highlighted information that's given on the right-hand side of the record. Things that might trigger, it could be this, uncle. It could be him here because of the information given. You said you don't know, you don't have a birth date, but if you know a city and a state, a place, I would also suggest using, let's see here.
One thing I can suggest is, if you know the hometown of where the person grew up, it could be that if you use the newspapers to see if there was a listing for their death on the ship, and then that would then narrow it down to, at least you would have a time period of the death, be able to request the death certificate or find other sort of military records that then relate to that person's experience on the ship. But yeah, that's the way I approach it, is that I
Yeah.
would try to stick to like the hometown or the place of where they were most recently living, and look in the newspaper.
That's good. You can also um, s- uh, search in that general search box, see if there are, say, I'm trying to think of a good way to explain it. You know, casualty records of World War II, casualty records of the Spanish-American War, casualty records of, um, to see if there is a specific publication that might focus just on the casualty records, in which you can at least get to like an alphabetical listing of names. I can't think of a specific record group or publication within Fold3. I know I have stumbled on some of record groups like that in a different database called MyHeritage Library Edition. That's another database that you can access, that you don't need a Library Michigan library card, as long as you are within the state of Michigan and using a Michigan internet service provider. You can go to mel.org and I put the address there, mel.org, and there is a link towards the top that says e-resources, and it gives an alphabetical listing of all the e-resources. Go to the M's for, MyHeritage Library Edition. And there are some groups that I do recall seeing that had casualty lists by war, but they weren't US. I think they were English. But you
And
could
I see
also,
that Shannon also asked the question: does the library membership come with newspaper research database? So, why don't you mention a little bit about what online newspaper databases we have?
okay, well, actually what I'll do is I'm going to go do a new share, easier to talk and show at the same time. I'm going to go back to our website here. So we see the Library of Michigan screen, Adam?
Right now, you've still got that login screen
The
for the
login, okay,
database, and I think you're going to have
yep,
to
go
go
back
back.
one.
There we go.
Yep, excellent, because at the top, newspapers and family history. Yes, we have Ancestry. We also have a subscription to Ann Arbor News Historical Current Collection, 1923 to roughly the current date. Detroit Free Press Historical, 31 to 1999. I think it goes a little bit beyond 1999 now. Detroit News Historical and / current MLive publications. There are a few publications. I'm going to click on this just to, I was going to want that too. Okay, fine. There are a handful of newspapers. I think Jackson's in there. I think Muskegon is in there. There's about a dozen or so.
Well, all of the MLive
papers
own papers that are, so it'll have from like 2000 on up. Yeah, 2002 on up. Yep.
And because those papers are not being microfilmed anymore. So that was the compromise, is to get us digital access to those papers not being microfilmed. It's something that if you have a library card, definitely go explore those. Or if you live close to us, come on in and we'll get you on a computer and get you going. It said Detroit News, Ethnic News Watch, the Globe and Mail out of Toronto, Grand Rapids Press. That's the relatively newest one that we got, I don't know, maybe 4 to 6 months ago.
Yep.
Heritage Hub is a collection of obituaries and death notices. I think it's just the lower 48. I don't think it includes Hawaii or Alaska, but it's many U.S. newspapers with those obituaries or death notices. Michigan Chronicle out of Detroit. We do have Newspaper Archive, and we have newspapers.com, it's the World Edition. And then Saginaw News Historical, 1881 to 2018. So those are our current newspaper subscriptions.
You might also want to go to the newspaper portion of our website just to show where there's those links to like Central Michigan's website and a few other different ones. So
Okay.
so go up to the top
For,
and go to for the public,
yeah. I'll just-
and then
Newspapers.
yep, and then click on newspaper resources.
Yeah, there it is.
And
So
then
he
there's
was
links. Yeah.
that Digital Michigan portal, Digital Michigan newspaper portal that's running out of Central Michigan University. And there's a lot of newspapers that Central Michigan points to or they are hosting because they do a lot of digitization of Michigan newspapers. Let's see here. You
I
can
think
look at
just a little bit further down, there's some links that go to specific ones.
yeah,
So I
Cass
know like
City.
Allegan District Library has a lot of their a lot of newspapers that are on there, and a few other. Some of these are covered by Central, but there was a few of them where it was like the Grand Haven Tribune Index isn't on Central because it's just an index and
Index.
full paper.
Yeah,
So
because they want the paper. Mhm.
yeah, so
Yeah, probably same thing with Pinckney. Oh no, not Pinckney. Saginaw News.
Yep.
Obituary Index. So this is just just a handful of things. So newspapers the resources are kind of scattered. So those databases that I showed you, these items here, and then definitely contacting that local public library that would cover that newspaper. So like on here, I don't see Dexter, but I do know that Dexter is digitizing or is working with the Dexter Leader, the newspaper, on a digitization effort. And I think it's only an in-house access, but in-house, I think it's only staff access at this point. So definitely contact that local library to see what they may have access to, because they may have a relationship with that newspaper. Are there any other questions or comments? Sorry about the little malfunction there.
I had my VPN die on me.
Yeah, hey,
I was like, whoa.
That's fine. I just completely forgot to bring my library card down here. Didn't think about that at all.
We're human. I mean, we do these
Well,
things.
It's been a while since I did this virtual program, back in March, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So does anybody have any other questions? Feel free, if you want to unmute yourself, feel free to do so.
Yeah. If not, that's okay too. Guess not, maybe. It is, let's see what time it is. It is
Why
about
don't
7.
you bring up the listing for the next, go to the top of the page, and then click
Programs.
on for the public, and then bring up the
Programs.
Yep, so we can just show what's coming up next. So our next in-person one is Michigan Open Books, July 7th.
July 7th. Yep.
And then we're covering Sanborn Maps on August 4. So that will one be Zoom, Grow Michigan, and then My Heritage. And like I mentioned earlier, the Facebook live video should be available soon, and then the recording that we'll have on YouTube should be up in the next week or so. So yeah, if you do think of any questions, email us librarian@michigan.gov, call 517-335-1477, and if you can, come visit us.
Yeah, I know.
Even if you're in Montana,
yeah, stop by.
There's a lot of great things in Michigan to come pay a visit for.
Shannon, there's a question there. The turnaround, I'd say 3 to 4 days. It really depends. This is a Thursday night. They'll probably check the email listing probably tomorrow morning, and then they'll divvy them up to whomever. I might get a couple. A few of my other coworkers will get a couple, but since I'm working Saturday, I wouldn't get to those library cards until since I work on Saturday, I'll get to them on Saturday because I'm not working tomorrow. So there are, different staff tasks that we integrate with those processing tasks. So I'd say 3 days, but since this is a weekend, probably Monday or Tuesday would be my guess. Yes, it should not be. I would say, Shannon, if you do not hear anything by Wednesday of next week, first check your trash folder and then check your spam folder, because I have fielded on the reference desk, a handful of calls since we've been issuing cards the last 1.5 years, 2 years, that we've responded and sent the library card email back, but the person's email account viewed it as spam or someone trying to, sell stuff, and it just deleted it, put it into trash, and put it into spam. So check those 2 spots. If it's not there, then email us, librarian@michigan.gov, or better yet, call us during open hours, and then we can look and see if we can find out what happened to it.
So yeah, unless anybody has any other questions, then otherwise, on behalf of myself and Matt Pacer and the rest of the library,
thank you for attending.
Yes, thank you, and we look forward to either seeing you in person or virtually at any future programs.
Yeah, have a good evening, everybody.